Hey guys and gals, welcome back to the podcast with me, Roscoe. If you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, please enjoy me playing Chrono Trigger badly. If you're listening to it just on the web, you have to imagine that I'm playing Chrono Trigger quite badly. It's part of the subject, it's the main subject of today's podcast, not specifically Chrono Trigger, but RPGs in general. What I've been thinking about is that I played Zelda A Link to the Past and Secret of Mana. I played all the way through them, almost finished Secret of Mana, never quite managed it. Finished Zelda, spent a lot of hours playing both games, and they then kind of put me off RPGs basically. Now I'm aware that there was a number of RPGs arguably better than those on the Super Nintendo, and some marginally worse, that I should have played basically. So from my own point of view, there's Chrono Trigger, Breath of Fire. I'd like to have a look at Dragon's Quest and some Final Fantasy games. But the question I'm posing today is, have we, or have you rather, in the past missed out on certain games because you were kind of not really into that genre? And then the other question is, even if you didn't like a certain genre, like say RPGs, like I've watched a few people playing Final Fantasy games, for example, and that type of role-playing game, the turn-based one where you're just all number crunching, doesn't really light my fire. But does that mean I'm missing out on games that are, basically legendary by avoiding them, if you will? Now, everyone's time is limited, so if you like driving games, which in my opinion were quite crap on the Super Nintendo, but if you like puzzle games, say, or did you play specifically those at the expense of playing arguably better games that were just a different genre? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to look at going back and playing some of the older RPGs because I suspect I've missed out. I mean, some PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy games that are definitely going to be worth a look at. So I can play the PlayStation 1 games on my PS3. Annoyingly, PS2 ones I can't play. PS1, I find that peculiar, but there you go. There's also some Nintendo, Super Nintendo and Genesis ones. Like the Genesis one I want to try is I've got some of the Phantasy Star online games, or Phantasy Star. They look really good. There's Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy games. There's the older Zeldas. Now I played and finished Zelda Link's Awakening, I think it was called, on the Game Boy Color. I actually played it on Game Boy Advance, but still played obviously. Now one thing I did do at the time was I decided to follow a guide. The reason for that is I wanted to enjoy it. I didn't want to spend hours looking for something because I couldn't remember where it was or whatever. So I think it took me overall about 4 hours, 5 hours maybe, say for argument's sake, to play through Zelda on the Game Boy. I have to say I quite enjoyed it. I still get frustrated by the whole, going past something knowing full well I'll have to go back another time to unlock it, open it, move it, whatever, when I've got more powers. That I still find a bit annoying. But then again, I think I'm going to have to get to grips with that idea because that seems to be a staple of RPGs to some degree anyway. Well, I just feel like I've missed out on a number of games that I was put off because I thought they were, well, they were RPGs, like turn-based ones, but not. I didn't do it because I didn't think I'd like them. Now, in fairness, I never actually gave them a try. I played Secret of Mana. I think it was the amount of time it took. I played Secret of Mana when I was a student, so I had, I had a lot of spare time to play it. And I even had one of my neighbours was quite into it the second he saw it, and between us, we spent a lot of time playing it. I think that arguably put me off a little bit. Whereas if you were playing, the other game we played a lot back then was ISS Deluxe, which is short. You play for 5 minutes, you're finished. Or you could play for half an hour, you could do a World Cup, you could win. Whereas the RPG did require a bigger investment of time. My Super Mario, it was easy to knock out 2 or 3 levels, get to the those what were they called now? Those areas anyway where you would unlock the yellow exclamation blocks or the red exclamation box or whatever, and you could save your game. Or you could do one of the like ghost houses or whatever, and you could save your game. But the RPGs always struck me that they required much more of your time. But anyway, the point of today's podcast is I personally think I missed out on a number of good games going back to the Nintendo. Not sure about the Master System. I've not really investigated that one. There's definitely some on the Genesis, definitely some on the Super Nintendo. Now, whether I actually get... It's unlikely, I'll be honest, if I get time to finish them all. But I definitely want to have a go at them and get a feel. I mean, I like the beginning where it sets the scene. So maybe if one game sets the scene better than the others, I might persist with that one. I mean, I have started, obviously, as you can see if you're on YouTube, I have started Chrono Trigger. I thought the combat system was quite good. And I thought the element of going back and forth in time was quite good as well. So, for me personally, yes, I have missed out on certain good games that I kind of forsaked, if you will, for want of a better word, to play stuff like Mario or ISS Deluxe or Super Bomberman or Ninja Turtles or Smash TV or the number of games I did like. So anyway, if anyone's got any thoughts they want to share with me, I'll be always interested and will reply. But that's pretty much it for this week's podcast, boys and girls. I say this week, that's a bit of a fella. I would like to do a weekly podcast, but real life does sometimes get in the way, so I do them as often as I can. I can obviously record them wherever I want. I can even record them on my phone if I wanted. Just a question of thinking of something interesting. I'm not going to do a podcast for the sake of doing a podcast. I'll do one when I think of a question or a subject worth talking about. But for the time being, party people, I'll leave you to it. I hope you have a good weekend and take it easy. Thanks for listening. Bye.